late. I hope it is still helpful for you. I hope you are still finding it, that it resonates. And whatever you're dealing with for this month, I hope that this provides a little bit of guidance for you. I am traveling right now. The setup is different, as you can see, and I apologize for the sound quality. Um, Lighting, etc. So my apologies. Okay, and more than anything, I'm very sorry that this is late. Um, yeah, things have been a little bit hectic due to my main job, so I hope you guys can forgive me, and either way, I hope this video finds you well. Um, so I actually had two messages that came out for you, so I'm going to talk about them in succession, okay? So first of all, when I was shuffling out the spread, it took me a really long time to form like an image, and then once that image came out, the cards started coming out. So what I saw was very distinctly, there's a man, he's driving down like a very mountain, hilly road, okay? It's a two-lane street, and there are a lot of hills. So he's going up the hill, and he's in this really small, white, compact car. It's a very small car. It looks almost like the 80s in rural America somewhere. It looks like the 80s. So he's like I can only see the back of the car, and then he goes up the hill, and then as he descends the hill, you see this power plant, okay? And power plants has that insignia that denotes radiation. So there's a power plant. It's white. It's looming in the distance. So it seems like that's his final destination. And then you see him getting closer and closer. The power plant looms larger and larger. It's emitting smoke. And then his car kind of stops at the gate. There's like security. He gets through, gets to the base of the power plant, and he steps out of the car with a full suit and also his briefcase, okay? So I was thinking that he works there. He works in this very intimidating, looming, like it seems like for many of you, you might work in an environment, in an organization that is like heavily scrutinized. Okay, that's what it feels like to me, because the power plant is huge. It's emitting smoke, so who knows what it's allowing to leak into the environment, right? And then on top of that, it has this huge radiation sign. Okay, it's huge. The emblem is like on the side of those smokestacks almost. So I feel that for many of you, for whatever reason, there's a lot of commotion around the work that you're doing. Either the company, the organization is facing a lot of scrutiny from the press, from the public, from the neighbors even that surround that physical structure. And so I do feel like I feel that a lot of you guys identify very strongly with the work that you do. You want work that is meaningful. You want work where your skills and your talents can be on full display. And especially for many of you, you might be like the voice, the face, the model, the mascot for whatever it is that you're working at. You might be a sales rep, for example, for a company that you work at. So you're kind of like the face of the product, okay? You could be very visible in the limelight, especially for many of you. A lot of Leos are politicians, okay? And so I do feel there's a lot of like you're kind of like in an environment that might be facing a lot of scrutiny, and you're doing the damage control. You might be the PR person that everyone reaches out, and you might have to deflect questions, deflect you might have to create your own red herring in order to distract people from something. From something. You might be hired to take on a position so that you can do damage control. You might be hired on by and November timeframe was problematic, especially for a lot of work environment, and especially for when it comes to their public image, because we had we had a very profound Mercury retrograde period where a lot of deeply buried things are coming to light, okay, or were coming to light. It was in the sign of Scorpio. And so I felt like a lot of things that people kind of sweep under the rug, a lot of deep, dark held secrets, especially as it pertains to companies, organizations, and work environment and things like that. Things that people in power were trying to hide from the public, or truths that they were trying to distort, or just things that they shove away when no one is looking. I feel that all of that might have come to light recently, and as a result of it, you're kind of called in to do some damage control. Okay, so that's what I was feeling. I just feel like the work environment that you're in is facing a lot of scrutiny. The people you might work with, they might have their own personal issues that's facing a lot of scrutiny. Okay, and they're faced with a lot of scrutiny. And I'm sensing a lot of people will come to you for the month of December, asking for advice, like, should I do this? Should I do that? Because they're really concerned about their public image. And it doesn't mean that they're superficial or vain or shallow. I just feel like there's something going on here where somebody's job might be at stake, and you're kind of called in to either provide some guidance, provide some legal advice, expert advice, even how to de-escalate tension, how to de-escalate a potentially volatile situation, how to do all of those things. Okay. um I also feel like you're good at your job. You're paid very well. For many of you, you're paid very well for the work that you're doing. But behind it, I feel that it's a job, so you try to do what you're told. So, for example, you work with you're hired on as a contractor to do some damage control for a company, and you might not like that company very much. And so, even if you don't agree with it, agree with the things they're trying to hide, the things that they're trying to sweep under the rug, you're hired to do this job. And so you will do it to the best of your capabilities. So I don't see any moral, ethical conflicts here. I just feel almost as if there's a lot of fires to put out. Okay? So going back to that image, there's a second part. So, he steps out, and he's in a suit, really nice suit, in this mini car, but he's in a suit, and he holds a briefcase. And so, my initial thought was, oh, he works here, he's an employee. But then I see him like with in that briefcase. It's not like papers or laptop or things like that. I guess in the 80s they didn't have laptops. It's not like papers. It's a science kit. Okay, so he has like those what are those, the droppers where you take a little bit of a water sample and you put it into a slide, things like that. He has a dropper. He has machines to test the radiation level. And so he opens it up, puts it on top of the front of the car, the hood of the car, and then he starts to go around the area, the power plant. He starts inspecting. So that's when I was like, oh, he's an inspector. So he's not called out to do some damage control, even though that message applies to some of you. Okay? But on the other hand, you might be also called in to inspect, to appraise, to make a final determination on something, to see whether or not it's sound, whether or not it's safe, whether or not it meets the regulation and the standards. And I feel like for many of you, and this could be, just literally just one person I'm speaking to, but I feel like there was something that was unearthed. All of a sudden, it just came to light, and you're called in to to make the final determination, to inspect, to appraise, to look at it. And he does his thing. Okay, he walks around multiple times collecting multiple samples. And then at the end of it, what I saw at the end of that picture, of that scene, was he puts in he takes like a poster from his car, Okay, and then you see him get back into the car. He drives away. The security gates closes behind him. He stops the car, gets back out, and he puts this giant poster with the radiation, the hazardous sign on it, hazardous sign on it, and it says like not, deemed unsafe. Okay, that's what it says, deemed unsafe. And so I feel that there's a situation around you where you guys are in a very important position to protect people from. Okay, you're bringing something to light so that people can be made aware, so that people can, so, 'cause knowledge is power, right? But I feel like there might be something that is unsafe, that is unfit, and you're drawing attention to it. You're calling it for what it is. Okay, so in a way, this could be in a work environment, but then I also feel that for many of you, um, the word unfit parent came in. Okay, so you might be, for example, a social worker, where you're inspecting homes, the home environment. Is this a safe place for children to be in? You might be inspecting like a retirement home where they take care of elderly people. You might be inspecting like a preschool, even a high school. You might be like, one of those superintendents or one of those inspectors, academic inspectors, to make sure something is meeting the requirements, it's passing, the regulations and the codes, and make sure other people are abiding by it, because if they don't abide by it, it can cause long-term negative impact on not only, the people that are involved, but the surrounding area, hence this power plant, okay? It generates power for the entire area, and if something happens to it, it will affect negatively the entire area in terms of, power surges, or even worse, like chemical spills and things like that. So I feel that you're taking your job very seriously, and you're wielding a lot of power. You're wielding a tremendous amount of power, where what you say, what your findings are, what your final determination is, it will affect a lot of people. And I just have to say, Leos, us fire signs were incredibly, incredibly ethical. We try to always walk down that straight and narrow path, okay? We're humans. We do stray from it, okay? But I do feel that for a lot of fire signs in general, ethics and morality goes a long way. There's always a right and there's always a wrong. And we don't really mix the two, okay? Water signs always know there's a right and a wrong, but they make justifications based on their emotional attachment to a specific outcome. Air signs can rationalize. They rationalize, well, it's wrong in this context, but it could also be right in that context. I feel like for a lot of fire signs, there's a right and there's a wrong, and no matter what the circumstance, the circumstance doesn't justify whether or not something is right or wrong. Those things are not malleable. And so I feel that you are wielding a tremendous amount of power here, and you're doing the right thing, because you understand that by, I guess, succumbing to, pressure, or by not listening to your own sense of morality, it affects a lot of people. A lot of people around you, a lot of people that might not even be family members, that you might not even know them, personally, but it affects their families, it affects their livelihoods, it affects their health. And so you're doing everything that you can to make your final determination on something, possibly to close something down, to shut something down that's not healthy, or to, like find justice in a situation, okay? I see a lot of people here where you might be looking at, the way somebody is raising a child, the way somebody is taking care of another person, and you're disagreeing with the way in which they do things. And for some of you, it is the holiday season. we're going to be dealing with a lot of family members. So I do feel some of these issues are coming up in the family unit. You know, it's like, you should have done this as a mother, you should have done that as a father, you shouldn't treat your parents like this. You know, all of those discussions, I feel, is coming into the picture, and I keep seeing like unfit. Somebody is unfit to do something. Somebody is unfit to take care of themselves, or they're not all mentally there, and they have somebody else who's managing their estate, or their who's like a power of attorney, and that person is unfit because they're taking advantage of the person who's not able to take care of themselves. So I feel like all of these ethical, moral debates are coming into the picture, and I do see you discussing all of these things with family members in a very passionate manner. I don't see it being like an argument where we're arguing and screaming and um, slicing each other left and right. I don't see that. I just feel heavy discussions over somebody's qualifications, over somebody's capabilities, over, whether or not something is fit, or whether or not the situation needs to be shut down and closed off. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing. And we're 16 minutes into the reading. I just wanted to get that out of the way, okay, because I felt like it's much calmer now. I feel a lot calmer. The power plants, the looming sign, that radiation sign is so strong. Like it was so big, it was so visible, and I feel that that message needed to be conveyed, because I feel like there's a potentially toxic, hazardous situation, and it needs to be called out. It needs to be labeled for what it is, so that people know to avoid it, and it needs to be shut down. Okay, so that's just the bottom line. Um, on the other hand, on a lighter note, okay, I do see two people here. So let me talk about these two people. I feel like that was the work situation. So let me talk about these two people here. I have one person who is who they're very much still interested in you, but I feel that you're turning your back on them, and you're turning away from them, and you're finding love and inspiration and passion and, reciprocity elsewhere. Okay? I feel that you are upset and frustrated with this person. And this person is shown up here as the Knight of Cups, okay? It seems almost like he's got a blob. It's like a paper bag over his head. Okay? That's what it feels like, doesn't it? So I feel that you are frustrated with this person. I feel that they do a lot of things that frustrate you. I also feel like they're overly affectionate and possibly a little bit needy. And I also feel that they're looking for you, wondering what you're up to, thinking about you, possibly even, trying to reach out to you. And I feel that you respond when you want to, but this person is no longer kind of like your top priority. I feel like once upon a time, the love between the two of you might have been very hot and heavy, okay? Because I do see an energy of like opposites attract. There might be a huge age difference. There might be like a cultural difference. There might also be like, it might be like an interracial coupling type of a thing. But I feel like there's a certain degree of, um, like, you guys are very dissimilar, okay? Very different from one another. And there's a certain degree of mismatch. And because of it, it's very passionate, it's very fun, it's exciting. But it ceases to be those things, because I do feel that you might be turning elsewhere for love and for validation and for, a relationship. And so this person is wondering what you're up to. This person is like not really sure how you feel about them. And they wish they could know how you feel about them, because they're wondering and always thinking. And, if you are a cross watcher and this sounds like you, I just feel like with fire signs, what you see is what you get, okay? Fire signs are very straightforward. If they're communicating with you, they like you. If they're not communicating with you, they pretty much have exited the picture. And so I feel that for many of you, you have left this person kind of like hanging, or you've just left them out in the cold. And they might, be bombarding you with messages, but I do feel that your heart is already elsewhere. And then I also feel for some of you, you might in like at the end of the day decide that this whatever you had with this past person, I feel like it was lacking in emotional depth. It was lacking in like, you know, it's like you talk about one thing and then they don't have an interest in it, so they steer the subject somewhere else. Or they talk about a certain topic and you have no interest in it, and so you just kind of like change the topic. So I feel like there's very little compatibility, and it created a situation where there was no chemistry. There was no emotional depth to the conversation, to the interaction. And when you it can feel to me like it's very time consuming or quite draining to be around this person. Not because they're a bad person. It just feels to me like it requires a lot of effort just to keep the conversation going because you guys don't have a lot in common. I do feel that they really like you, and I do feel this person is incredibly intelligent, incredibly smart, but they're very smart. Queen of Swords, super smart, okay? Their mind is very sharp. They're very discerning and perceptive, and they're probably like the really book smart type of person, but emotionally they're not very intelligent. And emotional intelligence basically means that we know how to read body language. We know that when somebody is like doesn't want to talk to us, and so we end the conversation. You know how sometimes you have like coworkers who you're super busy, you're at your desk working, right? And they see that you're working, but they keep talking and talking and talking. And you don't want to be rude and tell them, hey, I'm working, get out of here. Um, that's what I mean by emotional intelligence. Being able to read nonverbal communication, being able to pick up on, people's state of being able to, being aware of your surrounding, looking at people and being able to read facial expressions to know if they're sad, to know if they want to be approached, to know when they want to be left alone. Emotional intelligence. So I feel like somebody here is very incredibly intelligent, but they might lack the emotional intelligence, okay? And so I feel almost like, you could have a bad day and you want to talk to them about your bad day, and you look distressed, right? And they should know that. And then rather than letting you vent, letting you talk, they steer the topic away from something that is not even remotely important. And so I feel that it frustrates you, and it hurts you too, to feel that you're not validated, okay? To feel that they're not acknowledging that you've had a bad day. They're not acknowledging your distress. They're not picking up on these cues, and you're wondering, if they care about me, they should be more attentive. They should be more considerate. But I just feel that they're lacking in the ability. It's not the ability to sympathize or empathize. If they're aware, then they would know. They're just lacking in the ability to pick up cues. Hence, this person, it's almost like they've got that plastic bag or the paper bag over their head. They're walking around, not a bad person at all, but they're lacking in being able to know their environment, being able to sense their environment, being able to navigate their environment successfully in an emotional way. Okay, so this is somebody that is that doesn't form emotional attachments, and so they're kind of their friendship circle might be very, very small. It might also be quite superficial. They don't have depth to their relationships with other people, and I feel that you're understanding that. I do see you turning away. We have here the Knight of Cups and the Ace of Wands. This pangolin, I guess. with the swan is turning away, walking away, moving away from a situation. Mainly because I do feel that you need more validation. You need that sense of reciprocity. You need somebody who is a lot more considerate, okay? Like in your eyes, you feel this person is very inconsiderate, but I do sense that you want somebody who's a lot more emotionally available. And so enters this person, and this is the second person here. We have here the Queen of Cups. And I'm not reading the suit as a person anymore, because we have a lot of cross watchers. We have a lot of people with different planetary aspects, and you know, astrology is very complicated. It's the sun sign, the moon sign, the rising sign. That's like scratching the surface. That's like 3% of what astrology entails. Okay, and so by saying, you know, this is a water sign, sun, moon, or rising, I feel that it just glosses over the entire study of astrology. And so I'm going to read it as just, you know, the energy of a person. This is somebody who's a lot more emotionally available, okay? Just emotionally available. You have a strong emotional connection with them. And because you have such a strong emotional connection with them, you start to feel passion and chemistry with them. You start to feel, and I do feel like this person is quite attractive, very beautiful, very attractive. I'm seeing somebody who's like very well dressed, okay? Like they dress really, really well. They look presentable, they look very nice, they smell good, they're always clean. Um, they're made up, so like they could have a lot of not a lot of makeup. There's nothing wrong with wearing a lot of makeup, but I feel like they're dressed to go out. Like every time you see them, they look picture perfect. They're dressed to go out. They take care of themselves. They look great. They're beautiful and attractive, and you know, they just look clean, and they just look like they know what they're doing. That they know, that they're aware. You know, whereas this person was kind of like fumbling in the dark. This person is very aware. And so you're shifting from the energy of one person who's kind of clueless to another person who's a lot more, I guess, considerate, a lot more attentive, a lot more observant, a lot more observant. I also feel that you could be dating two people. One person is quite fun. The other person, there's a very strong emotional connection. There's strong attraction, but they might be a little bit more on the selfish or the possessive side, okay? So one person might be a little bit more possessive. Like, I didn't mean to say selfish. I meant to say jealous, but selfish came out, so maybe. So selfish, or like they're a little bit more wrapped up in what they want, in their emotions, in what they want, in what they want to hold on to. And I feel like the emotions are very, very intense, okay? This is somebody that, you know, you've dated them for a really short time, and they talk about love. And it's not like they're just blurting it out. I feel that they feel emotions very strongly, and so they want to express themselves. And they're just very honest, very open with how they feel, and they know how they feel at all times. Whereas this person was not like that. They held back. They didn't communicate emotionally. And so this is a breath of fresh air for you. I would urge you, the passion is really strong here, Ace of Wands. I would urge you to slow down. You're kind of like going from one extreme to the other. That's what it feels like to me. And so I would urge you to slow down, because I feel like this person over here, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of chemistry. You guys are a very good match. But they might be in a position where, you know, they're thinking about like, let's put a ring on it. Let's get married. Let's start a family. And it's like 3 months in the 3 months, 3 weeks into the relationship, and they're already planning these things. And so I do feel possessiveness. I do see a sense of jealousy with this person. It's someone who's fiercely loyal, but they're also fiercely protective. of the things and the people that they love, okay? She's like gripping and holding on to this lobster. And then I also feel like the realization here with this Judgment card is you're a little bit taken aback by the intensity of this person. When you were dating this person, you wanted intensity, you wanted passion, you wanted intensity. And then so this relationship was lacking in that. So you might have moved away from it. And now you're meeting exactly the person that you were hoping for. Intensity, passion. And then you realize that the intensity is too much. So you're kind of like stuck in this loop, okay? And that's what I mean by you're moving away from one extreme and landing yourself in the other end of the spectrum. And so if you're still dating this person, I almost feel like, it's that hazardous sign. It's that hazardous sign where it's telling you to caution. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means, you have to think about, why is this person so possessive? Why is this person so jealous? Why is it 3 weeks into this relationship and they're already talking about marriage, talking about children, talking about, moving in together, getting a house, getting engaged? So mull these things over, mull over these decisions, because with the Ace of Wands, it denotes to me impulsiveness as well. And so we want to make sure we are on the same page before we can make these, major decisions, okay? Especially if we have children in the picture as well. So I feel like something is starting off really, really fast. It's great. It's passionate. And I feel that this person really likes you. And they might feel that you are the one. And then I also feel you have that ex coming back into the picture. And I feel like they're totally opposite people. On like at first glance, or from what you remember, or from what you know about these two people, they're totally different people. But in its essence, I feel one person is a lot more expressive. The other one was very non-expressive. But at the heart of the matter, their energies are very similar, okay? They might have issues when it comes to emotional expression. One is too much, one is too little. Try to find that balance, okay? You might be that middle ground for them, for both of them. You might be that anchor point, and that's where they gravitate towards you. So just be careful that you have to moderate a relationship. Just be careful that you have to be the one where the other person leans on, because that can create, codependency. So, you want to be careful of that, okay? The second image that I saw for you was, I see this dark corridor. It looks almost like a hospital or like a school. It has a lot of different rooms, and it seems very clean and kind of sterile. And it's dark. It's, I can see a little bit, like I would say 30-40% visibility. It's dark out, the hallway is very dark, and I see this man kind of walking down this corridor, and he can't really see, he can't really see, right? It's dark. So he's holding out his hands. He's walking slowly, he's holding out his hands, walking, and it makes me feel really uncomfortable. I'm looking at him walk down this hall, but I feel the discomfort because, when we're in that kind of an environment, where we don't know what's underneath us, where we don't know what's 10 feet in front of us, it can feel very unnerving, and it can also feel just really uncomfortable, vulnerable and exposed and uncomfortable. Okay, those are like the messages that came through, especially like vulnerable. And so I do sense heavily that you're in a environment where something is very new, and it makes you feel a little bit vulnerable and a little bit exposed and a little bit uncomfortable as well. Do I take off running? Do I just run to the end of the hall and hope that everything will be okay? And what use is it if I'm meant to get hurt? Do I just get a early start and just run and make it fast and swift? Or do I slowly put myself through this agonizing discomfort, fear, feeling around for what's in front of me, feeling around for what's around me, and prolonging the discomfort, right? So I feel like those are the thoughts going through this man's head as he heads down this hallway. From what I can see, the hallway is clear. There are no chairs just thrown about. There's nothing that can really hurt him. It's a sterile environment. And so I just feel like a lot of what you're experiencing is the novelty, the newness of a situation where you're going to have to kind of, it's like you don't have the map, you don't have the blueprint, you don't have the previous knowledge about this situation. And so you're kind of like thrown in and, forced to figure things out. For some of you, you might be dating somebody who might have children, and you're doing this for the very first time. And you're just like, I don't know how this is going to play out, but I'll do it little by little. You might be like in a relationship, and you're meeting somebody's parents for the first time. And you're just like, I don't know, it's going to be, a little bit strange, uncomfortable, awkward even. But let me just jump in and then feel things out. And then for others, you might be taking somebody, excuse me, you might be dating somebody who is ethnically, culturally, very different from you, religiously very different from you. And you've always had like preconceived notions in the back of your mind. It's going to be like this, or they're like this, so and so is like this race, this religion is like this culture is like this. And so you're kind of like nervous about like how to bridge that cultural divide, how to bridge that divide in general with a significant other or somebody that you're dating. And I do feel what's coming through is relationships that are very new, like a budding romance where there's still a lot of chemistry, a lot of getting to know each other, a lot of like, showing your best selves to each other because the relationship is still very new. And new love is always, really sweet, but it comes with it that sense of butterflies in your stomach because you don't know everything about the other person and you're still trying to figure things out and you're still learning about each other. And it makes it really exciting. So I feel like this spread is all about that it's like a fizzy, almost like champagne, sparkling water. It's like that, the fizziness, the fuzziness, the butterflies in your stomach that comes with the territory, that comes with a new job. It comes with a new relationship. It comes with like a situation where you're thrown into an environment that is very brand new to you. You don't have a map. You don't have guidelines. You don't have like a manual for how to do things. All you can do is dig through, your lab kit and, take a little bit of sample here, take a little bit of sample there. Take samples, test the parameters, and then reach your conclusion. So I feel like you're in a very good environment I don't feel like it's experimentation, but I feel like it's like testing the waters, okay? Testing the waters, navigating this environment so that you can make the final determination, like, is this worth my time? Is this going to work out for me? Is this what I thought it would be? And I feel that you are very pleasantly surprised that what you thought was one way was another. What you thought this person was going to be turns out to be another. Okay, that can be good or that can be bad, but I do feel this sense of like, this fizziness coming through where you're experiencing the joys of the anticipation, the excitement, and the trepidation, all of it. And I feel like it's all surrounding a new situation that you're navigating, and especially a new relationship. Okay? I've talked enough about that. So I have the Ace of Wands here, and this is what I saw earlier as you have the stick of power in your hand to change a lot of lives and to make things better for other people. I also feel we have the World. A cycle is closing up with another person, with one person, and something new is coming into the picture with this World card. And then we also have as well the Hierophant, and the Seven of Cups, okay? I usually look at this in tandem, like the reading the cards and how they interact with each other. This is all your findings. These are all your results. These are all the things that you imagine something to be. And you're making that final determination, writing up your analysis, writing up your assessment, writing up your findings. And, people are deferring to your judgment, okay? So the last four cards is very much about, the major energies for this year, because we have the Hierophant and the Hangman, which are major arcana cards. So I do sense here a conclusion is reached. People are waiting for your final say, for your final word, for your word of wisdom to tell them whether or not something is fit or whether or not something is a good fit. Okay, so you might even have like two potential suitors waiting around for you and asking you to decide. Okay, asking you to decide. Like, is it going to be me or is it going to be that other person? And I feel like you've already made up your mind because you want to go for that relationship that has a lot more emotional depth to it, and you're meeting somebody that will show you the depth of emotion like nobody else can. Okay, I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me for this reading. I hope it is helpful for you guys, and I promise you, I promise.